Welcome everyone to my favorite subject, how to distribute your APL64 applications. As Tisa mentioned on the introduction, we're going to be talking about some options for the WRE. Hopefully this will work. Good. So basically, quick refresher for anybody who has not seen this before. We have two main ways to distribute APL64 applications. First one is the Windows Runtime Executable. That is a standalone traditional application. So basically, you're going to have, or your end users are going to have an exe that they double click and they run the application. So there will be a workspace with a QuadLX and that get executed on startup. And then you can add files, component files, configuration files, all those kind of things. Second option is what we call a cross-platform component. Think of it as an API, a library. We package that in a Nugget package because it has become the de facto distribution system for all software in the planet. Everybody creates a Nugget package. There is no UI as it's not as it doesn't when you're using cross-platform components, the Quad WI is not supported. If you try to use it, it will just crash. And the way we package that is by targeting the .NET Core. So wherever the .NET Core runs, then your application will run. If you want some information for later on, you can go to the help menu, developer version GUI, and go to APL64, WRE, and CPC overview. Then again, that is somewhat. Basically, getting back to the WRE, which is the subject of today's conversation. So, you have a workspace, you have a query expansion, and now you want to send that to end users. And you have decided that it has a GUI component, as a UI. So basically, you have three main options. The options is create a single exe file, including all dependencies. Second, very similar option is create a single exe file, excluding the .NET runtime. Basically, is everything your application needs, but it doesn't include the .NET runtime. Or the other one is, I want to create sort of a files that I need to send to my end users because I am an advanced user. I have a lot of experience with installer support. So I'm going to create my own deployment mechanism, either using MSIX or MSI, or whichever deployment mechanism I want to use. So I just give me the files I need to send the user so the application will run on their machines. So those are the three options. In terms of final size of the options, single exe file, including all dependencies, is the biggest one because it includes the .NET runtime, which is about 150, 160 megabytes of data. So that is being included. The advantage is every single time you double click, your application will run. It doesn't depend on anything. It takes seconds or minutes to unpack everything it needs to unpack for the application to run. If you have the files or the single exe excluding the .NET runtime, then is your responsibility to guarantee that the .NET 10 runtime is on the client's machine. If it is not, when you double click or your end users double click the exe, then they will get a Windows provided error message saying you need the .NET runtime to run this thing. And again, we have few in this call. If you have any questions, just raise your hand. As I was mentioning, how big it is. So if you have the single exe, including all dependencies, I will be showing the demo workspace later. The demo workspace is a single function with 10 lines of code. Then the end size of the exe is around 332 megabytes. Uh, for me, that's nothing on today's standard. For some people, that is like unacceptable size. It's fine. If you use the smaller option, which is the single exe that does not include the .NET 10 runtime, then about 168 megabytes. And that doesn't take into account any files you may need to distribute. So that depending on your application, you may be sending, graphic files or images or source code files, or I'm not source code, but complementary files or whatnot. But those issues are going to be 10, so it's fine. Why the size? Why is so big? There has been a lot of additions to Apl64. We've been doing some presentations on the additions and the new features on Apl64. So when you are creating a WRE, then everything we have created brand new for Apl64 is included, regardless if you are using it or not. Then how can we make it an option, or what can we do to reduce the size? So we said, okay, we created some brand new things for Apl64. You may not be using it, so you have no need to distribute those things. The problem we have is scanning the workspace and try to find out if you're using those components, those new components. It is flaky. At the end of the day, you can use many, many, many techniques to create functions at runtime. And then we may be not sending something you rely on. Since the developer is the only one that knows what he's using, then we make the decision of put the developer in control if you want to add some components or not to the WRE package. What happens if you say you are not using something and you end up using it? Then you get a non-zero. Make sense? I will demo this, so it will make sense. How it looks on the UI, and because again, in demo mode, the UI is tiny. So this is kind of a blow up of how the function is going to look like on the WRE creation screen. Is now there will be a new section called excluded components. When you are creating your WRE, you can click on the drop down and select the components you do not want to include. If you want to include everything, you don't have to do anything. Your existing WRE definitions are going to work just fine. If you want to exclude some components, then again, drop down, click the ones you want to exclude, save the WRE definition file, and you're done. What the difference is. So this is in kilobytes. So if you're using the biggest output, which is the single exe file, including all dependencies, if you don't remove any of the components, then your size is going to be around 341. Sorry. On to the next slide. I really need lost my mouse. Let's go back. Good. 301,000 kilobytes. As you saw on this screen, I'm going to go back one more. So we are including or allowing you to exclude 3 for now: Excel, R, .NET, or the SQL components. So again, the 3 we are allowing you to exclude right now are Excel, R.NET, or the SQL components. What are the sizes? So if you remove R, very little. Again, this is the R components is out of Apl64. To use R, you still need the user to have R on their machines. So that, of course, that is not that 1 megabyte difference. If you remove the Excel component, then it's about 5,000 kilobytes, 5 megabytes. If you remove SQL, then the difference is a little bit more significant, talking about 120 meg, because we include all the databases, SQL, MySQL, DB2, and ODBC. So when you exclude all the options, then again, it's about 115, 120 megabytes in size. And that's when you're using single exe file, including all dependencies. If you go with the smaller option, which is the single exe file, excluding the .NET runtime, then the difference again is about 100,000 kilobytes, 100 megabytes. You go from 172 to 64, which is a more digestible size for your end application. Some more things can be added to the list, but I think at this moment, let's do some demos for 1 second. Let me bring Apl64 to the screen. Everybody can see it now. So I'm going to load over space. This space has a quadratic function. Make it a little bit bigger. Let's make this a little bit bigger. The font fine. Can everybody read? Sort of. And go screen. Better. If people can read it. Again, 10 lines of code. It's not the most exciting form. But basically it's to show you guys what happens if you try to use an option that has been removed. So basically it's going to be a simple form. We're going to be using Quad Excel for example. So it's going to be a simple expression of Quad Excel, and then the output is going to be written out to the screen. And then to prove the form is working, then we're going to have a button with a click me that basically counts how many times you have click. So if I run this function, I'm going to bring the form into the presentation screen. And again, I've sent these things tiny. So right now it has the output of quadrx right there. So it has the instruction and it has the output, which is 1 and 1, 1, 1. I don't know, probably nobody can see that, but that's what it is. And the click me is depending on global variables. I've been running this all day, so right now it's 20 clicks. Pretty simple function. So now if I go to the WRE creation window, that into the presentation. So we're using the single exe, excluding the .NET runtime, which is the smaller option. And then here you can select the items. You can click and unclick whatever you want. Then you select everything. Right now, I'm selecting everything and removing everything. I'm going to load an existing definition, sorry. So my existing definition was including all dependencies. I'm going to change it to excluding the .NET runtime. Then I'll change it to exclude everything, just to show the size. Then you click create. When you click create, I'm not going to click create just to be on the safe side. I'm going to move this onto the screen. So basically you have something around 64 megabytes. This is the single exe excluding the .NET runtime. When I open this form, again, I gotta move this into the presentation screen. So I go into focus, the two running applications. So this is the one running from the session. This is the one running from the single exe excluding .NET because I excluded the Excel instead of the output we were seeing. We get this nonce error. I'm gonna move this a little bit here to the side. And I'll move this window out of the way. And I want to save so we can remember the code. So basically, this was the caption we were setting up in a try catch because we did not include Quad Excel. Then setting the caption failed. We're going to bring the forms back. So when Quad Excel is included, we get the output, which was A greater than RC C1, A1, blah, blah, blah. The execution of Quad Excel. The second one, because I decided not to include Quad Excel on the WRE, then you get an answer. And close it. If I go back to the WRE creation, I am going to be extremely safe and load up the definition. I'm going to change it to with the .NET. Everything has been included. I mean, or nothing has been excluded. I am going to create it. Takes a minute. Bear with me. Has been created. I want to see the output. I mean the log. Now the file is about 172 meg. Remember, it was 64. It has been just been created. Again, is on the screen. So I can move it like here. So I get confused. I'm gonna remove this from the screen. I'm gonna remove this from the screen. Okay, now bring the things back. So this is the form running from APL. This is the form running from WRE. When the Quad Excel is included, then the Quad Excel runs. When the Quad Excel is not included, then the Quad Excel doesn't run. Makes sense? And the difference is size. So you can either have something of 168 megabytes when you don't include the .NET runtime, or something around 64 megabytes when you decide to include the runtime. Going back to my presentation. There are other things we can exclude. Again, some of those things are not brand new to Apl64, but some of those things are not necessarily that common or popular. Quad MatNet, Quad CSC. On the next version of Apl64, if you remember, if you didn't attend, you can go to our YouTube channel and see the presentation on Quad HTLC and Quad HTLS. So those components can also be made optional. The feature, I did forget this to mention at the beginning, the feature is under development, has not made it to the release version of Apl64 yet. It's one of those things that we want to gather a little bit of feedback. If people feel that, is worth having the safe on size with the very easy it's not a huge amount of work to check this here. So if people feel like that is a worthy addition to the Apl64 system, then we will put it into the release, hopefully the next one. Any questions?